for the second set of problems from the August 2022 Regents. This is 7 through 12. First one we're looking at, right, is asking us which sketch could represent the function m of x equals negative log base 100 x minus 2. My hint for this one, right, is to just take my function and put this into my graphing calculator. Just make sure that you're using log base function. You get that from hitting the math button and then scrolling down to letter A. So then when I graph it, I'm going to get a line that looks something similar to number 4, right? And right, I would also kind of like to look at this one and know that if I have a negative in front of my log function, I know it's being reflected over the x-axis, and I also know if it's I have an x minus 2, this accounts for a shift right on the x-axis, right? So it makes sense that my normal log function is flipping and then also shifting to the right. Number 8, I think, was a tough one. Here, right, which equation has the roots of 3 plus I and 3 minus I? My hint for this one, I mean, this is just how I thought of it, was if I know something has imaginary roots, I know that my discriminant, right, in my quadratic formula has to be negative, right? So if I think, I know, right, that means my b squared minus 4ac, once I put those terms in, right, I know whatever in front is my first term is my a, this is my b, this is my c. When I put that stuff in, it's got to have a negative number underneath the square root sign. That's my hint. So then, right, I come back and I kind of do, I can just brute force this, right? But I kind of got lucky. If I looked at my first one, right, and I plug in my numbers, b squared is what? Negative 6 squared minus 4 times my a value is 1. My c value is 10, right? Negative 6 squared is 36. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times 10 is negative 40. So underneath my discriminant is negative 4. And I know, right, if I do this for all the other ones, I'm going to get what? 100 minus 36. That's going to be positive. This is 36. It's going to end up saying plus 40, positive. This is 100 minus, actually now adding 36, also positive, right? So all those would give me positive numbers. This is the only one that gives me a negative number. So that's the only choice, right, for me that's going to give me roots that are imaginary. Kind of tricky. Number 9, right, it's a word problem. A local university has a current enrollment of 12,000 students. The enrollment is increasing continuously at a rate of 2.5% each year. Which logarithm is equal to the number of students it will take for the population to increase to 15,000 students? Looking at this, right, 2 hints here, right? Anytime you see increasing continuously, that means you're dealing with the letter E, right? Oops. And, okay, mistake, right? So I'm looking at, right, increasing continuously means I'm looking at the letter E, right? And then I'm doing like an exponential equation. So I know I have, right, what would be my value, I kind of like my output value, which is the 15,000. That equals what? My initial value. I have to just erase my E, but my initial value times whatever rate it is. So that's where I get my E, right? What's my rate? 2.5, but it's got to be in as a decimal, so 0.025. and my time, right? Which in this case, right, that is what my unknown, right? We don't know how much time it takes. And then from here, you want to solve for t. Hopefully, remember the first step, right? Try to solve for t. I want to first get that e, right, by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 12,000. When I do that, right, the 12,000s cancel out. I'm getting 15,000 divided by 12,000 gives me 1.25 is equal to e raised to the power of 0.025t, right? I know, right? Now I want to get this down because I can't do anything with it yet. That means I want to take the natural log because the natural log is the inverse of e. So if I take the natural log of both sides, this becomes 1. I now have 0.025t. If I look at my answer, right, every answer has me. I'm not getting an actual value for this. I'm just going to keep it as the ln of 1.25. And then right now, basic one-step equation now. Divide both sides by 0.25 or 0.025. And what does t equal? Answer choice number 4. Right? If you can think, right, that beginning part, what would be like your output function? This is always your initial value, whatever rate it is. Increasing continuously means you have to use that, your letter E. Moving on. Number 10, I have no idea how to actually figure out what the points of intersection are. I know some of you, well, if you're given a value of x, you might be able to plug it in, but this is only asking for what is the total number of points, right? I'm going to just try to plot this, right? My first one, I can just throw into my graphing calculator right off the bat, y equals e of x. Second one, I have to do a little bit of work, really just one step. I'm going to divide both sides by x, right? Because I'm trying to get the y by itself. So in my graphing calculator, I can put y equals 20 over x, right? So take a second, plot both equations. I'm using my alpha little fraction bar to get that 20 over x to make it look good. 20 over x. I graph it. I get something that looks like this. Right, really rough. The y equals e to x, that's going to be I'm going to keep that one as like my blue line. It just looks like a normal e to the x function, which goes like this, right? I'm really bad with this mouse, but whatever. And then you have your y equals 20 over x. That basically is a function that looks like this. Because I know the only value it can equal is 0, so it has this weird, right? Basically it has all values except for x equals 0. So, right, I know my e to the x function can never go below 0, so it's never going to touch this line, right? Because this one can never go above 0. So I really only know there's one spot for them to touch. And you can almost see that too from the graphing calculator. So answer choice number 1. Looking at number 11, I think 11's I like this one because, let's see, it says the amount of a substance A of t in grams remaining after t days is modeled by A of t equals 50 times 0.5 raised to the power 2 over 3. Which statement is false? This one really just has you right. We know this is, number 1, a half-life problem because it's got the 0.5 in here, and basically every 3 days, right, your substance is getting halved, right? That's the idea, right? Every 3 days, that's the number below, and your fraction, it's getting halved. So which statement is false? What I'm doing is I'm just saying, right, every 20 days, no substance remaining. I'm I'm substituting in the 20 for the t and seeing what I get, right? So my hint is, right, use the numbers that they're giving you here. Like get the numbers from the words, right, or the numbers that they give you, and see if you can figure out an answer. If we go through, right, I'm looking at my first one, right, in 20 days. So that means I'm going to substitute in, right, t of 20. If I do that, what do I get? I get a value of 50 times 0.5 raised to the power of 20 over 3. I have there not a lot left, right? But I have 0.49 grams remaining. So right off the bat, right, I know this is false because there's something remaining. Answer choice number 1, right? If I take a look right after 2 half-lives would be 6 days, right? So I could do the same thing just to check, right? I would substitute in 6 for my t, and I have 12.5% remaining. 12.5% is indeed 25%, or I would have 12.5 grams remaining. So it'd be 25%. Same thing here, right? The amount of substance can be modeled. What I did for this one was, it looks a little bit different, right? But we know the negative just makes what's inside here flip, becoming 1/2. I tested, I said, guess what? At 6 days, right, which would be the 2 half-lives, if I substitute a 6 in here, I actually get 12.5, right? So it can model it, because whether I put a 6 into my normal function they gave me or this one, I get the same answer, right? And after 1 week, there's less than 10 grams remaining. What am I substituting in for my t this time? I'm substituting in 7, because that would be my 1 week. And if I do that, I get a value of 9.9, right? So there is indeed less than 10 grams remaining. So I proved that number 1 is my correct answer. Last one, number 12, the parabola, right? We never really learned this one in class. The equation for, right, finding a parabola is x minus h squared equals 4p times y minus k. All right. And I'm just going to go over here, right, and make a quick little sketch. I know my vertex is 2, 1, so it's going to be 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. 2, 1 is my vertex. I know my focus is 2, 1, 2, 3, -3. So that means I have a parabola that's kind of going down, right? Because the vertex is always going to be like my turning point, or like my min or my max. And from here, right, you're basically just you're using your vertex to get your h and your k, and you're using the distance between your vertex and focus to get your p. So if I substitute my values in, right, I'm going to have x, right? Vertex was what? My x value is 2, so minus 2 squared equals 4 times, what was my p? My p is 4. And then my y minus my y value, my vertex, which is 1. And then shout out to Halima. She kind of reminded me, well, since I'm looking at my parabola and it's upside down, I know it got reflected over the x-axis, so I have to throw in a negative. Once I do a little bit of math, I know this becomes -16, right? So -16 distributed into y. I'm kind of skipping that step, right? But that's going to be -16y. And then also -16 times -1 gives me +16. And then I'm just bringing down the x minus 2 just because I see it's up there in my answer, right? So I'm not going to play around with it. After that, I have to make sure, right, I'm trying to solve for y, because I see, oh, these are solved for y, so I'm going to subtract the 16 on both sides. That cancels out. I'm left with negative 16y equals, this is where my mouse cursor starts to kill me, but whatever, x minus 2 squared minus 16, right? I know I got to divide by negative 16 on both sides. I like to always show it like this, negative 16, and then also I kind of like to show it like this, right? That I'm dividing negative 16 to all my terms. All right. When I do that, right, this cancels out. I'm left with what? Y equals, this becomes positive 1. And then this becomes, right, negative 1 over 16 times x minus 2 squared. A lot of work, but I believe it's answer choice number 3.